Hi, welcome to another training movie for Canto Roboflow. Since Cumulus 9.2, Roboflow has the ability to apply permission templates to records or to categories. The workflow I'm going to show you today is going to do that, is going to apply permissions and a permission template to records. Applying permission templates is very easy. You have, for instance, a hot collection workflow. Let's say that this hot collection workflow launches a query, say status has no value, and any record in the sample catalog with status has no value will be processed. Every record will be offered, will be executed with this action script. What are we going to do in this action script? If it was just applying a permission template, it would be just one instruction, apply permission template with a name of the permission template that you want to apply, and case is closed. But in this example, we want to take it a little bit more further, a little bit more complicated. Say that you have roles, and those roles come from either Cumulus or come from your LDAP environment. And in those roles, you want to assign a permission template per role. So it could be that a couple of roles have the same permission template, or they have all a different one. So you can create this tab limited text file. You could just go into your Cumulus client and do a copy paste to Excel, and then add a second column with all the permissions that you want to assign, or you can type them in, the ones that you want to be assigned. You can leave out the ones that you don't want, or you can just put them, give them an empty value. This way you can have a group of users represented by a role name or an AD group, have a certain permission template applied. Let's say that they can see in a catalog, maybe there's a query involved, and they can only see those images that were uploaded by that department, by that role. So that could be a way to do it. You could have also, for instance, an extra column here that sets a field value for that particular department or for that particular role. So that could in itself trigger again new stuff, new workflows. So once you've set up this tab limited text file, you can start building your workflow. When you catalog a record, automatically the user field, the user who cataloged the record, is automatically picked up. So every record has a cataloging user, and let's add this to my record view set here, and I will just say in this record view set, add field, and that is cataloging user. There it is, cataloging user. I click OK, and when I have a look here at the bottom of this record view set, I see that for this record I have a cataloging user called Roboflow, the next one also, and the third one is called Michael. So that way I now have three cataloging users, three records that have a cataloging user that I want to process. To be 100% sure, I can say status has no value, and I can find those three records. What do I want to happen? I could just assign a permission template that is specific for us user. So the first step that I have to do is first I load this tab limited text file. I load this and I prefixed it with a query, a search, a test. If this is the first item of of the loop if this is the first record it's processing. I don't want for every record having to read this text file. So I'm testing if this is the first item. Yes, well, then I'm storing the path of the file, and I'm saying the role names variable here, role names variable is the path to that file. So I'm storing that as a file object so that the next instruction has the ability to store the text file as a table. It reads it then as a tab limited text file, and tab limited text file gives us the reads a tab limited text file and stores it as a hash table. And this hash table will then give us the opportunity to search in it to find the proper permission template to apply. I'm prefixing the name of the output variable with global. There are some other training movies explaining that, but prefixing an output variable with global tells the workflow to store it not locally for this one record, because we want to reuse it, but store it at a higher level, at the workflow level, so that it is available for every record processed in this loop. The next thing I do is I am going to pick up the cataloging user from the record, and the current record is hot, is called hot, stored under the variable name hot, and I'm picking up from that hot record, I'm picking up the field name, the cataloging user, and storing that under rec user. The next thing I do, and these are new instructions from Cumulus 9.2, is that I store the user information as text, and I'm saying from this user that I just picked up from the cataloging user field, I want to get which type of information, and you see you can get all different types, and I'm asking for the roles, and that means that I'm going to store that under a variable called roles. It's just outputting it as a text, and if it's roles, it will be separated by semicolons. The next thing I test is I'm testing if there are any roles, because it could well be that this is a system with LDAP, and that for some reason the Cumulus environment cannot ask for the roles to the LDAP server. So if no roles are found for this user, we could in this case try to process it in another way. And processing it in another way is a new instruction, store ldapinfo as table. So it is going to query an LDAP server and store the result in a role in the variable called roles table. That means that every line or property that comes back, attribute that comes back, will be stored with the attribute's name, like member of, or given name, or surname, and then with an array of values, which means that for the roles, for instance, it will return the names of the roles in an array. Here, you have to set up the other LDAP information, which you can easily copy and paste from your ldap.xml if the customer is using LDAP. And what do you want to search for? Well, out of the box, it's doing the search that you can see in the help. So it does a SAMA account name equals the login that you specify. But if you prefer to specify the query yourself, you can specify the complete query. Again, it's a copy paste from your XML, and then include this rec tag, this tag in the place where you can see here my login. And that's also an option if you want to use a different search syntax. Of course, the search is done in a certain base. So this base, again, is something you copy from your environment. And finally, you have either the possibility to ask for all information that you can get from your via LDAP from the AD. It could be the CN, the mail, the SN, the given name, the member. And there's actually, these are official ones that are known by every AD LDAP connection. All info returns you every information that LDAP wants to give you. There's one special one, which is roles, which will ask the system for a member of value, and then will parse that it takes the CN value of every member of, so that it returns nice, understandable role names instead of the big, like you see this CN, U, DC, etc. It will just make it return the CN value. So once you set this up, this will return a table. So what we are doing then is processing that table. Internally it's called a hash table, a Java hash table, and then it processes the rows from that hash table, and each row is an array, is a string array. And what I do is I'm storing the first number of this array as a role. Usually people are in multiple roles, but usually the first role is the one that matters. I'm just storing it here for making sure that a little bit further down the road I can test if the LDAP search returned roles or not. So the most important part is that while it's processing those roles, it will store the array of roles under role-row. So once I'm coming out of this, and if the roles were not empty before from Cumulus, it will split the text into an array with the same name. So either the roles from Cumulus will end up as an array of rows called this way, or the ones from LDAP. Once I've processed those two, either searching by the Cumulus names or roles, or searching for the LDAPs, I test again the variable roles. And now you see why I wanted here to store that under the name roles, to see if it's empty. Because if at this point it's still empty, that means that we just have to write in the log, sorry, I cannot find any roles for this user. And you can go two ways here. You can set a status to the field saying no roles found, or you could send out an email that something is delivered by a user that is unknown to the system, or whatever. In this case, I'm just adding a log item. You could also here apply a permission template to the record saying this is the permission template, no access allowed for anybody. Good. Assuming that we do find roles, well, the test else gives us a new function in Cumulus 9.2, process columns from a row or columns from an array, and that stores the result under a string called role. So here I just have role name, tag of array, and the role variable. So every role found in that array will be processed. And now what I'm doing is I'm storing an empty permission template field variable. And then in the next instruction, I'm looking up in my table, in this table, with that role name. I'm looking here. I use the global role table, and I did a little bit of inline scripting here in a way that I'm doing a lowercase of the role. You know, this gives me processes the roles one by one. I get the variable role in here, and what I do is I do a lowercase, and I'm getting the element, and I'm getting column number 2 from that row. The first column will contain the search variable, and so if we looked here in the table, we're looking for a specific row. So it says, oh, I found the copywriter row. So this returns a row with 2 values in it. Value 1 is the copywriter and value 2 is the permission template. So that's why in the script then I'm asking here for the second column. If nothing is found for this role, I'm returning no permission found, so I can identify that, and I'm storing it in the permission. So what happens now is that if here the permission is empty, the field, the variable permission equals empty, then I know that it did find it, but the permission template to set was empty. And so it knows, okay, I can skip this one, I'm safe, I don't have to do anything. It just writes, just writes in the log, for this user, for that role, an empty permission was found, so nothing is assigned, nothing to assign. If the permission is not empty, then we did find the permission template to set, and the permission template, if the permission template is set, then if the permission template is not empty, it can have 2 values. Either it was not at all found in the table, then there's something wrong with your table. So in that case, it's again writing something to the log, but again, you could change this into sending out an email to an administrator notifying about, hey, there's something wrong, and permission not found. Or here below, if the permission is not no permission found, then we finally come to the part where we are going to assign the permission template. Here is the instruction. It's just apply permission template to what? To which record? The hot current record. Which permission template? Well, if it's a hard-coded one, you could select them. But in this case, it's not a hard-coded one. It's one that we searched in that table. And so it's a variable here. We can write to the log and say, okay, this was the permission template. And then finally, I'm storing, in this case, the status field. I'm using the status field. It can be a text field, can be whatever you like. I just want to know which permissions were applied. And I don't want to overwrite if it applies several permissions. I'm appending to that field so that I can see it applied permission 1, 2, and 5, for instance. So that's why I first store the current value of the status field, and then I merge the value of the current status field, here called status, with a dash and with permission value, and store that under the status variable, and then again I'm saving the status field. So remember, in this example, if the permission is not found, or if the permission store current, where is it? Store record field status. I'm actually gonna put this a little bit higher. So maybe if it doesn't find it, we could also set the status to something just to avoid it looping over this same record again and again and again. So we could have, for instance, for the status field, something like nothing assigned. And so that means that we would have to put these values outside so that we know that at least it did process it. So what we can do is we can cut this and we can put this paste here at the end. So whatever happens, it will set the status. The status here the first time will be nothing, empty, and then it will merge with permissions, and permissions is where should be initialized somewhere. So I'm looking where I'm initializing permissions. Here's permissions. I'm saying copy, and I'm going to paste permissions here. So now I have this set to blank, which means that it will merge blank dash blank. So it will put a dash in your permission in your status field if nothing was found. At least that way it won't process it over and over again in case nothing has to be assigned or nothing is found to be assigned. And that's it. That's how the workflow runs. So if now I start the workflow, and Roboflow was not yet running, so now it is running, and if I refresh, it's finished. If I do show log, oh, and I had debug enabled, so that is giving too much information. We can have a quick look here. In the old Roboflow interface, we can see that it found this record. It found from the record a user called Roboflow. It found a role of the user, which is correct in this case, and then it found the permission template to apply for Roboflow in that table. Then it found another record, which was also the user Roboflow, so it's the same. And then we came up with a user called Michael. Michael is in the role called add writer, is in the role, and which has this permission template that it applied. Then he is also in another role where he applies another permission template. Then he's in a role called tech, which has no permission template, and then another role which has again a permission template. And then so you can see that different parts are processed all the time. Different permission templates are applied depending on the roles the user is assigned to. If we look in the Cumulus catalog, we will see that in this field for this record we applied default permission 3. For this record as well, because both of them were from the Roboflow user, and this one is from the Michael user, and the Michael user we applied default permissions to. So that's another example of how Roboflow can do some automation for you, and in this case it was applying permission templates based on the cataloging user and finding his roles, and then applying a permission template based on something in a tab limited text file. Thank you for joining. If you have any questions, you can always contact me at peter.vandepoele@me.com. Bye.